Hey guys, welcome back for another video. So if you saw my video that I posted last week here on this channel, I walked you through how to make your own SCOBY at home for brewing kombucha. So this week I'm going to show you how to brew a batch of tea, how to take that SCOBY, put it into your tea, let it ferment so you can actually have your first batch of homemade kombucha. So I think I'm gonna break this up into a two-part video series. So this week we're gonna get our kombucha brewing, and then I think next week after it's had time to ferment 7 to 10 days, we will go ahead and get our kombucha flavored and put it in the fridge so we can enjoy it. Okay, so before we get started, you're gonna need a big pot to boil your water and steep your tea in. For today's tutorial, I'm using my 5-quart enameled cast iron pan. I pretty much use that for just about everything. To this pot, we're going to add 8 cups of filtered water. Now, it's important to use filtered water. You don't want to use water from the tap if you're in an area that's highly chlorinated. You'll have to boil the water longer to burn off that extra chlorine and other things that could be in your water so it doesn't kill your SCOBY. So again, filtered water is really important for this process. All right, so you're either going to take 8 cups of filtered water or 16 cups, which is gonna make 1 gallon of kombucha. You're gonna pour that into your pot and bring it to a boil. So while this is coming up to a boil, I wanna show you guys the kombucha resource book that I absolutely have thoroughly enjoyed over the last 12 years for my kombucha brewing journey. All right, so this is the book that I highly recommend, and anybody that's interested in brewing kombucha, I definitely point them towards this book. It's the Big Book of Kombucha. Now, if you go onto Amazon, obviously there is a ton of different resources for kombucha brewing and different books, but this, of all the kombucha books that I've looked at and had over the years, this has been the only one that I've actually hung on to. It's just got some really amazing recipes, talks about their journey with brewing kombucha, other resources that you can find online, and the thing that I really like for people who have never brewed before. So there's a section that kind of walks you through what you can expect to see over the course of 7 to 10 days when your kombucha is starting to ferment, what your SCOBY should look like, what a healthy SCOBY looks like, different brewing supplies, where to purchase things, the different kinds of teas that you can use as a base for your kombucha brew. It's great to have these pictures as a guide instead of having to search for things online. And if you flip towards the back of the book, this is where you're gonna get a ton of different recipes. So it's chapter 17, it's called Beyond the Beverage. So it's other uses for kombucha, and not just the tea itself, but also the SCOBYs. So like I said in my last video, there's different things you can do with SCOBYs for your kitchen. You can use it as a mask, a facial toner, different hair tonics, foot detox, skin lotions, sunburn relief spray. I have tried a lot of these recipes and they all work amazing. I have really sensitive skin, and I find that I can't just use anything on my skin, but all of the products and things that I've made from this book and tried have been great. So I just had to share this really great resource with you guys. Check the description box down below. I'll have a link to this book. Okay, so my water is just starting to come to a boil, so I'm gonna actually go ahead and turn this off. You don't need it to be a rolling boil. If you do that, it's gonna take that much longer for it to actually cool off before you can get your kombucha started. So once it just starts to get little bubbles on the bottom, like it's gonna start going into a rolling boil, shut it off. Now, depending on what size batch of kombucha you're going to be making, you're gonna need 4 to 6 tea bags. So this batch of water that I'm boiling right now is 8 cups. So to that 8 cups, we're gonna add 6 tea bags. Go ahead and let that steep 5 to 10 minutes. Now, if you prefer really strong tea, you can go ahead and let that sit as long as you want. So while your tea is steeping, again, make sure that the heat is completely turned off. At this point, you do not need it on anymore. Then you're gonna take organic cane sugar or sugar in the raw, and we're gonna take a half a cup for every 8 cups of liquid. So again, this is an 8-cup pot of tea that I'm boiling here, so I'm gonna use 1/2 cup of organic cane sugar. All right, so after your sugars have completely dissolved in your tea and after your tea has steeped as long as you want it to steep, 5 to 10 minutes is usually what I do, you're gonna go ahead and remove the tea bags and then just set this liquid off to the side. You're going to want it to be at room temperature before you actually put your SCOBY in it and your starter liquid, because if you try to put your SCOBY and starter liquid in it now, at this temperature, it will completely kill the organism and it will not ferment or brew tea. So I usually do this process the day before I'm gonna start my kombucha. So it sits overnight, so I know for a fact that it's at room temperature, and then I make my kombucha the next day. So I actually brewed a batch of tea yesterday, so it's been sitting for over 24 hours now. It's definitely at room temperature. So we're gonna pop back over to the other table and I'm gonna show you how to put your tea and your SCOBY together so you can let it sit on your counter and start your fermentation. All right guys, so it's time to put our kombucha together. So like I said, this is the batch of tea that I made yesterday, so it's been sitting for more than 24 hours at room temperature, so it's definitely ready to go. So you have options for jars. You can use old pickle jars, you can use these lidded glass jars. Obviously you're not going to need the lid to go on them, you're just going to need a cover. You can also purchase these special 1-gallon or 2-gallon brewing jars. I purchased these on Amazon. They're BPA free, they're food safe, made specifically for doing kombucha or housing SCOBYs. So I highly recommend these jars as well. I have about 12 of these for when I'm doing really large batches of kombucha to gift to people. So these work really great. Today I'm just putting it in this jar to sit on my counter because I have some extra cloth lids that fit this style of jar. To this, I'm going to add 1 cup of a starter liquid. Now for this, you can use the starter liquid from your SCOBY. You can use a store-bought kombucha. Now, had I not already drank the previous batch that I made, I would have just used 1 cup of starter liquid from my previous batch of kombucha, but we go through it so fast here, I really just sometimes can't keep enough of it brewed. So in that instance, you're gonna wanna add 1 cup of a store-bought kombucha to your tea. Any brand and any flavor will work. I just prefer the GT's original brand because it's unflavored, because I like to flavor the tea myself. So again, just 1 cup of this. I really don't measure this anymore. I just kind of use 1/3 of the GT jar. You're gonna add that into your tea and sugar mixture. So once you've done that, then you're going to take your SCOBY that you just made and you're going to put it in your tea. Now it doesn't matter, it's probably gonna sink, it might float, it might sit funny in the jar, it really doesn't matter. You're gonna wanna take a washcloth or a fabric bowl cover like I have on this one, and you're going to cover your tea. Take a rubber band, put it over the top of your jar. So just make sure that this is really secure, that there's no place that any bugs or flies could get in under that rubber band and into your jar. You'll have to throw this out and start all over. This is a linen napkin. Again, a washcloth will work. I do not recommend using cheesecloth. I know a lot of people say that you can use it. I've had really bad luck with that and with fruit flies being able to get in, and then again, your batch is ruined. So any kind of towel or something that's kind of a tightly woven knit will work. We're gonna put this somewhere where it can be left undisturbed for 7 to 10 days. Preferably temperature be around 65 to 70 degrees. If it's really hot, sometimes in my house, I will actually pull this at about 6 days and I will taste it to see how fermented it is. The hotter the temperature is in your home, the faster this is gonna ferment. So after that time, you will see this larger SCOBY or your SCOBY that you put in the jar in there, as well as a new SCOBY formed on the top. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video where I kind of walked you through how to get a batch of kombucha brewing from your SCOBY that we learned how to make last week. Let me know in the comments section down below if you guys want to see a follow-up video for how to flavor the tea that we made today. If you're interested in learning how to make these cloth bowl covers, I do have a tutorial over on the blog as well as here on my YouTube channel, kind of walking you through how to make these. They're really simple and it's a great alternative to cover your kombucha while it's brewing. So I hope you guys have a great weekend and I'll see you next time.